Hi folks, Matt Easton here, Scholar Gladiatoria. So just looking at the 1796 pattern light cavalry sabre, a hugely popular model of sword that was brought out as British light cavalry pattern of sword in 1796. It was designed by John Gaspard Le Marchand, a cavalry commander, in conjunction with Henry Osborne, a sword maker, London-based sword maker. And it's been a hugely popular sword. It was popular in its time, and it has been popular ever since, really. Lots of people throughout history, ever since it came out and ever since it was used, have said favourable things about it. However, there were essentially two unfavourable things that were said about it. One relates to thrusting and the curvature of the blade, and I'll come back to that, and the other relates to the relative lack of hand protection on the hilt. Now, I'm going to more or less ignore the hand protection issue here because that's not what I want to talk about in this video. I want to talk about the curvature and thrusting. Now, many people, including myself, have pointed out that one of the drawbacks of the 1796 pattern light cavalry sabre is that you can't very well thrust with it. And some people go, of course you can thrust with it. There's some videos on Cold Steel website, and Cold Steel have done, where they get a large carcass of meat and stab it with a replica of a 1796 light cavalry sabre. Yes, you definitely can stab a piece of meat with anything, and if that thing is slightly pointy and slightly sharp, it will stab it even more effectively. Yes, I completely agree that a pointy object of pretty much any type can be used to stab things with. However, and this is my rebuttal to those people into the Cold Steel videos, it is not a good thrusting weapon. Whilst you can poke holes in someone with this because it's made of metal and because it's sharp and has a sort of pointy bit, it is in no way, shape or form, quite literally, a good thrusting sword. There are a number of reasons for that. First of all, it's very curved, okay? Obviously, and that's the real headline. And all of the other points come under that, they come as a result of that. Because it is very curved, let's take one example. Let's say you cut at me here and I guard. I could guard with the edge, I could guard with my thumb on the flat. There's all sorts of ways I could guard on that side, okay? But let's just do a standard cart guard as taught in most sabre fencing manuals, with the edge, attempting to parry with the base of my blade where it doesn't need to stay sharp anyway. So I'm parrying here and I want to thrust you. My point's not pointing in the right direction. Okay, if I guard myself and I want to get that point online to thrust, I need to guard wider than I normally would. So it's making it difficult for me to guard and riposte with a thrust. Instead, it becomes easier actually to guard and cut with the false edge, or guard and turn the blade, and so guard and riposte with the edge. Guarding and thrusting doesn't work very well with this highly curved kind of sword. Yes, you can do it. However, it works better with a straight sword because you can thrust in opposition with a straight blade better than you can with a curved blade, because the curved blade is not pointing in the right direction. That's the first thing. The second thing is the straight lunge, okay, straight thrust. If I want to extend my arm forward and thrust, again, the point's not pointing in the right direction. Yes, there are ways, and this is what Cold Steel show, there are ways that I can do a curved thrust and stab the pointing doing this. But this has hugely less reach than a straight arm thrust. There is a reason that specialised thrusting swords, such as rapiers and small swords and estocks, are straight. Okay, in fact there's many reasons and I'm covering them here. But one of the reasons is because you have the longest reach in a straight line. If your blade is curved, it means that you have to stab effectively, and I'll come up to why on my next point. If you want to stab effectively, you have to move the blade in a curved line, and therefore you rob yourself of reach. So it's not very good at thrusting at that point. So it's not very good at guarding and riposting with a thrust. It's not very good at giving direct thrusts on a lunge. The final point is force, okay? If you apply force through a curved line and you hit something here, yes, it will stab into it. However, what happens is the back of the weapon wants to be pushed away and diverted like this. It doesn't form a good, it doesn't transmit kinetic energy effectively. Obviously, if you look at any tool designed to transmit force in a straight line, it is a straight tool. Okay, the only exceptions really are if we look at things like a pickaxe, where you might have a curved pick at the end, because the pick is at the end of the shaft and the shaft is moving in an arc. That's not like this. That comes back to the curved thrust thing. If we look at the pickaxe analogy, you're turning the sword blade into the pick of the pickaxe. You've got to move it in a curved line, which is not very useful in most swordsmanship. Yes, you can do it, however it doesn't make for very good thrusting in most situations when you need to thrust in swordsmanship. So if you thrust in a straight line and you apply the force in a straight line, when you hit your resistive target, and let's bear in mind that when cold steel thrust into pig carcasses or whatever animal carcasses, they're generally not wearing clothes and stuff. If you put a winter greatcoat on top of a military jacket and then try and stab through it, you need to get a fair amount of force into it. Okay, and fundamentally, if the blade is curved, you're losing a lot of that energy to trying to keep the blade straight, because the blade will want to divert. Finally, the shape of the point. The shape of this point is specifically designed to increase cutting capacity and mean that you can cut further away from your hand. A pointy type of sword, like this Henry V sword here, if I just grab this, if I try and cut someone with the very tip of this blade, it doesn't work very well because it's a pointy blade and the blade geometry is very poor for doing that. However, with a katana or a falchion or a 1796 light cavalry sabre, if I cut right at the tip up here, it's still got a lot of breadth, and the blade geometry is very good for cutting up there because it's very thin and flat. So actually, although this is only a 33-inch blade, I can hit someone 32 inches away and still give a good cut. If I take a 33-inch blade that's a pointy blade, I can only effectively cut them about 27 inches away from my hand. So actually, this increases my effective cutting range, the distance at which I can effectively cut with it. However, because of that shape, it is awful at thrusting. It's just not well designed to penetrate through things very well. I mean, anybody with common sense can see that. Anybody with common sense can see that that kind of point, whilst it might not cut very well at the tip, that penetrates things a lot more easily than that does. So there we go. My summary is that yes, of course, you can stick any pointy object into a soft thing. Yes, therefore you can thrust with a 1796 light cavalry sabre. However, nobody should be under any illusions, and I don't think anybody who fences with historical weapons would be, nobody should be under any illusions that this is a poor thrusting sword. It is an excellent cutting sword, and overall it's a good sword, it's a great sword, but it is really not good at thrusting for all of the reasons that I just mentioned. Cheers folks! Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, follow us on Facebook. You can buy t-shirts through Spreadshirt, support us on Patreon, or follow us on Pinterest. Thank you.